Hey folks, and welcome back. Today we're diving into room 3 of our dollar store dungeon. Now if you're not familiar with the rules, they're really simple. Everything that I use in the construction of the room has to have come from the dollar store, except paints and glues. Those can be just whatever I have lying around. Other than that, I've pretty much got free reign, except that I'm following the structure of a 5-room dungeon. Pretty simple, right? Now today is going to be our puzzle room. Pretty excited about that, so let's jump in. Okay, we've already had a social encounter and a combat encounter. That means it's time for a puzzle. Now this is our chance to bring the story back into focus. Who is this family? Why are they cursed? One of the basic elements of tragedy is that it's the result of a character flaw. So someone in our family has chosen to draw on the power that ultimately corrupted them. Naturally, this leads to disaster and the untimely death of everyone involved. We'll use this room to tell the story of the mother, father, son, and daughter that made up this family, to give the players a chance to know them and delve into that tragedy if they want to. We'll also be giving them the chance to skip past all of that, though if they choose that route, there will be consequences later. The room will have 4 statues and 4 plaques or plates to put them on. When the players enter, a guardian spirit, a member of the household staff, maybe like an old loyal butler or a huntsman, will appear to them and relay the story of the family. Now, the players can choose to engage and ask questions, but must ultimately arrange the statues of the 4 family members on the plaques in the order of their deaths to get the doors to open and proceed onward. But while they're doing this, you as the DM are going to be taking notes about their behavior in character. If they're rude to the guardian spirit or cruel and cold about the family's story, make note of it. If they try to rig the puzzle instead of solving it, or bash the door down instead of opening the lock, that's fine, let them. Just make a note of it. How they get past this room, it doesn't actually matter too much yet. Whatever crazy scheme they try, just let it work. It's gonna come back to haunt them in the next room. Pun fully intended. Whoa, don't skip forward just yet. This isn't a sponsor spot, this isn't an advertisement, trust me. Alright, I've been reading a lot of your comments saying you'd like to see more of this type of content, more of this type of video. Now since I happen to have a lot of fun making this type of video, that's great and it's easy for me to do. What I'd like you to do though, is maybe leave comments below suggesting themes for future dungeons that I can do. That way I don't have to just go in and get inspired on my own every time. I'd like to bring a little, community participation into it. You guys pick a theme, I'll pick one from your suggestions, and we'll see if we can make a 5-room dungeon out of it. Alright, back to the video. I'm going to start with some dollar store foam. We don't need too much space for this puzzle, and unless something goes horribly wrong, the players won't be fighting in this room, so we can save on material and make it a relatively small space. The foam gets cut to size, the backing peeled off, and I hit the entire surface with a tinfoil ball for that all-important stone texture. I want the family to actually be interred here in this room. Now, building sarcophagi out of what I have would be tricky, so instead I'm building a portion of the stone wall, and I'm going to add some copper plaques to the wall to imply that the bodies of the family are entombed within. I use a few more sections of foam and texture them in the same way to build some wall sections, and then just cut 4 matching rectangles of foam to serve as the plaques. These don't get textured. In fact, I don't even peel the backing off. That smooth surface will help to differentiate them from the stone wall later on. This is also a good time to take a couple of strips of foam and build some simple stairs just by layering them on top of each other. Our adventurers descended from above into this part of the dungeon, and small steps like this will help to give a sense of continuity and to continue the feeling that they're still moving deeper into the ground. The 4 panels that our statues are going to get placed on are simple 1" by 1" squares of foam. They'll be painted copper to match the statues and the plaques on the wall, visually connecting all of the elements of the puzzle: the deceased family, the statues, and the plates that they go on. It's a nice visual cue about which elements the players need to solve the puzzle. That really just leaves our statues, and thankfully I have just the thing. This pack of simple wooden peg dolls is perfect for this. They'll make great abstract representations of the mother, father, the son, and the daughter with just a couple of little details added. I used the cardstock that is attached to the bag to cut out a simple belt and representation of a sword for the young man in the family who wanted to grow up to be a knight. And for the infant daughter, I take the flimsy backing that came in the champagne flutes that I used in the previous build, and I tear it up and just kind of twist it around her to make it into a sort of a swaddling look. Of course, if the players have trouble telling which figure is which, you can always just have them roll an investigation check to help them out. Okay, before we get into the painting, I want to break down how the whole puzzle actually works, step by step by step. Now, it's pretty simple. As soon as the players enter the room, a guardian spirit appears to them. Now, this isn't going to be a warrior or something that the players can easily mistake as an enemy. It's going to be a former staff member of the house, like a butler or a maid or someone who knew them personally. Now, this character is here to explain the story of the family to the players. In my campaigns, we like to get a little bit dark, so you might have to adjust this story based on the preferences of your players. What I'm going to do for mine is that the mother of the family died giving birth to the youngest daughter. In his grief, the father tapped into the powers of an ancient and dark book that has always been in the family, and though he was always warned not to use it, he's just obsessed with getting his wife back, and so he hesitantly taps into these powers. But as he reads more and more, his obsession grows. Cursed item. And eventually he ends up just totally obsessed with this book, diving into it day and night. He can be found in his study at all hours, burning candles, sweating and slaving over this book to try to make the magics inside of it work. Eventually his son, a promising young warrior, approaches him and tries to reason with him, tries to pull him out of his madness. And in his interrupting his father's dark rituals, the son is struck dead by black magics. The father is now consumed with grief, lost day and night beyond the touch of any other person. Even the house staff are worried and beginning to flee. Eventually, he believes he finds a spell that will allow him to resurrect his lost family members. But he's not exactly a talented wizard. What he ends up doing instead is unleashing a dark magic intent on killing the last living member of his family, the baby daughter that his wife died giving birth to. Fueled by rage and grief, the father tries to protect his daughter with everything he has left in him, but he succumbs to the dark powers next, before his daughter is killed as well. It's a pretty grim story, and pretty sad. And players being players, they might make fun of this. Anytime that things get a little too heavy, your players like to poke fun, put a few holes in it, relieve the tension to laugh. That is exactly what you want here. So why is that? Well, in addition to being a puzzle, this room is also actually a trap. Maybe your players are jokesters and pranksters and they can't help but poke fun at the family no matter how dark their story is. Maybe you've got a rogue who wants to investigate the weighted plates and forego the trap entirely and just move on. Maybe you've got a barbarian or a fighter who wants to bash the door down, or a paladin who thinks it's his holy duty to smite the guardian spirit even though it's not dangerous in the least. That's phenomenal if that happens. You want to take all of that and write it all down. In fact, anything that your players do in the entire dungeon, but especially in this room, that is disrespectful to the family, write it down. While this story is tragic and sad, it's also bait. You kind of want your players to make fun of it a little bit. You'll see why in the next room. But for now, just write down anything they do that's disrespectful or mean-spirited to the family, to the guardian, to the trap, anything that shows that they're more concerned with treasure than with the tragic story of this family. Okay, now that we know what we're doing and why, I can paint this up and put on the finishing touches. And if you've seen the other rooms, you know the routine by this point. Everything gets started with Mod Podge. When that's dry, all the stonework gets a medium gray base coat and then a dry brush with a light gray. Can't get much simpler than that. The statues, the plates that they go on, and the plaques that the family are entombed behind all get painted with copper. This is just to make them stand out a bit from everything else, but also to tie all of the elements of the puzzle together visually. Once the copper paint is dry, I go back to this stencil that I used in the first video. I decorated the outside of the mausoleum with it, and this seems like a good place to continue that theme. With a little bit of kitchen sponge, I dab some black paint onto the tombs of the family members. And finally, to make it all match with the rest of our dungeon, everything gets a black wash. This is just homemade wash, nothing more than water, dish soap, and some black paint or ink. And when that's finally dry, and here we are, room 3. Not perhaps the most visually stunning room of the lot, but puzzles rarely are. I do like this room though because I love the interactive elements. It challenges your players to either get involved with the story or simply chase the loot. And if they choose the latter, the consequences for disrespecting the burial site will be swift and brutal. And that's what we'll be dealing with in the next room. I'm really looking forward to that one. Room 4 is going to be, I think, the coolest room in the dungeon. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, but especially my patrons. Your support means the world. Please hit like and subscribe or check out the links below if you want to support the channel further, either through Patreon or just by buying me a coffee. Oh, and hey, if you have ideas for themes for future dungeons, or just ideas you'd like to see explored and built out this way, please comment below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.